Chris Carson played high school football at Parkview High School in his hometown of Lilburn, Georgia. Before the start of his senior year in 2012, he had multiple offers from Division I schools on the East Coast, like Florida International, Miami, Indiana, and the University of Southern Florida. 6 games into his senior season at Parkview High School, in a game against Shiloh High, he took a hit to the legs after catching a ball out of the backfield and tore his ACL, ending his senior season. At this point in the year, Carson had been offered scholarships by 12 different programs and still being heavily recruited by schools like Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia, his hometown school. Carson's injury led to his grades slipping and losing focus in school, and this didn't help him in recruiting as his grades didn't meet the standards of many D1 programs. A school he really thought would offer were the Georgia Bulldogs, his hometown team. Georgia's running backs coach Brian McClendon told Carson he really wanted to sign him, but his grades ended up not being good enough to enroll at the university. Carson enrolled at Butler Community College to play football in the fall of 2013, but shortly after the 2013 season, Carson and his family lost their home of 14 years. Carson and his stepfather tried to fight the fire themselves once everyone was out of the house and safe, but their garden hoses couldn't contain the flames that were spreading by the minute. Carson and his family bounced around hotels before landing with a family friend. Carson told his mother this as their family home went up in flames.
And then I kind of told her, like, if I could get to the NFL, that I was going to, get her a new house, try to help her out as much as I can.
2014, as a sophomore at Butler County Community College, Carson ran for 994 yards in 9 games, along with 9 touchdowns and averaging 7.2 yards per carry. Carson was ranked as one of the top JUCO recruits in the country, and after his breakout season in 2014, was preparing to enroll at Georgia for the 2015 college football season. But on January 23, 2015, Carson made a last-minute visit to Oklahoma State, in which Mike Gundy brought the Heisman Trophy that Barry Sanders won in 1988 when he was a Cowboy, to try and sway Chris Carson to his school. Carson played the 2015 and 16 season with the Oklahoma State Cowboys and ran for over 1,000 yards in his Cowboys career, and in only 9 games posted a 6.8 average yards per carry on 82 attempts and had 9 touchdowns. NFL.com gave Carson a 5.8 prospect grade, which is an average backup or special teamer. An analysis by Lance Zierlein says he is an immediate winner of the eyeball test, but that hasn't been his true running style. His shift from finesse to a more power-based running style fits his size and physical attributes and gives him a better shot of playing on Sundays. Carson is suited to a downhill attack that allows him to be a hammer rather than a nail, but he's unlikely to create for himself with elusiveness or speed. If Carson works out well, he could hear his name called on day 3. With 4 picks left in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Seahawks drafted Chris Carson with the 249th pick in the 7th round. Carson started the 2017 preseason as the 4th running back in the depth chart behind Eddie Lacy, Thomas Rawls, and Trent Madden. But after running for a couple of touchdowns against the Chargers Vikings, he worked his way up to the 2nd running back spot and was splitting carries with Eddie Lacy in Week 1 versus the Packers. In Week 2 against the Niners, Eddie Lacy was made a healthy scratch and Thomas Rawls was set to make his season debut as the starting running back. But at halftime, Carroll made the switch and Carson would be the starter. In Week 3 against the Titans, he scored his first NFL touchdown, catching a pass from Russell Wilson in the 3rd quarter. Through 3 games, Carson had gained 166 yards on 39 carries, which turned out to be a 4.5 average per carry, and solidified himself as the team's starting running back going into Week 4 against the Colts. Unfortunately, that's where Chris Carson's rookie year would come to an end, as he got rolled up on, getting tackled late in the fourth quarter of the Seahawks-Colts game. At that point, he had rushed for 42 yards on 11 carries, and finished the season with 208 yards rushing and 59 receiving. He had surgery and was placed on IR the following morning. The drafting of Rashad Penny in the 2018 draft didn't cut down on Carson's playing time, and neither did the injury he suffered last season. In fact, him, Penny, and Mike Davis actually led the NFL's #1 rushing offense, rushing for just over 2,500 yards, and Carson himself rushing for over 1,100 yards, including Mike Davis rushing for over 500 and Rashad Penny for rushing just under 500 yards with 419 in his rookie season. The 2019 season started off rough for Carson, as he had pretty bad fumbling issues early in the year, but it actually ended up being his most productive year, as he rushed for almost 1,300 yards. He ran for 12,050 exactly, and the Seahawks once again had a top 5 rushing offense, this time mostly behind Carson, as Penny got hurt towards the end of the year and Mike Davis left in free agency. Fortunately for Carson and the Seahawks, Carson fractured his hip in the second to last game of the 2019 regular season against the Cardinals, and landed on IR, which meant he would miss the 2019 playoffs on top of the last game of the season against the 49ers. In his first 2 full years as the Seahawks starting running back, he amassed over 2,300 rushing yards and was looking like a top 5 back in the NFL. The early part of 2020 really showcased Carson's ability in the passing game, as his first 3 touchdowns of 2020 came through the air. Despite the production in 2018 and 2019, I really believe that Chris Carson was at his best at the early part of 2020. As a guy widely known for running between the tackles, it was nice to see him utilized as an all-around back. In the first 5 games of the 2020 season, Carson had rushed for 289 yards on the ground, 140 yards through the air, and 6 touchdowns in 5 games. Carson would miss the next 4 games with a sprained foot, and finished the season with just under 700 yards with 681. He also scored 5 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns on the season. It was the first time since his rookie year he would finish with less than 1,000 rushing yards. Carson had started off 2021 strong, starting with 202 yards in his first 3 games, including 2 touchdowns, and looked like he was headed for another 1,000-yard rushing season. In the 4th game of the season, Carson left the 49ers game in the 3rd quarter, and Alex Collins took over and actually scored a rushing touchdown in his place. Carson's status was relatively unknown until he was listed as inactive for the Rams game on Thursday night. The Friday after the game, Carson was placed on IR, and it was later announced that he would have neck surgery that would end his 2021 season. Pete Carroll described it as a chronic neck condition that had been inflamed, and that he would have surgery to have a vertebrae repaired. Carson had talked about hoping to play despite the injury, but after failing his physical last Tuesday, he decided to retire from football entirely. Chris Carson retired with 3,502 rushing yards, 24 rushing touchdowns, on 4.6 yards per carry in 49 games. He finished 8th in Seahawks franchise history in rushing yards and 6th in touchdowns. Chris Carson overcame a lot to get to the NFL, like tearing his ACL in high school, going to community college, his family losing his house, being a 7th-round pick, and suffering a season-ending injury his rookie year. Despite all of that, he became a top 10 running back in Seahawks history in just 5 years.